Welcome back to DSR. We're going to return to the player's handbook to do another sorcerer subclass. This is going to be the Aberrant sorcery subclass. Yeah, we're finally getting through the sorcerers. We got one class left to go after this, and then we'll be done with the player's handbook. Ish. All right, Aberrant sorcery. Wield unnatural psionic power. An alien influence has wrapped its tendrils around your mind, giving you psionic power. You can now touch other minds with that power and alter the world around you. Will this power shine from you as a hopeful beacon to others, or will it be a terror to those who feel the stab of your mind? Perhaps a psychic wind from the astral plane carried psionic energy to you, or you were exposed to the far realm's warping influence. Alternatively, you were implanted with a mind flayer tadpole, but your transformation into a mind flayer never occurred. Now the tadpole psionic power is yours. However you acquire this power, your mind is aflame with it. Two things. I love psionics, so I'm heavily biased. Like, psionics is my favorite theme in D&D. Like, the absolute best of the best is psionic gish. Yeah, that is my absolute favorite thing. Two, I think that the tropes here are awesome. And before we get to Scion, until we get to Scion, which is coming, I'm very excited about, this is the most psionic character you can make, or presumably the most psionic character you can make. Okay. Let's get into the mechanics. So first up, you got your psionic spells. Let's get all those on the screen. You get Arms of Adar, Calm Emotions, Detect Thoughts, Dissonant Whispers, Mind Sliver, Hunger of Adar, Sending, Everard's Black Tentacles, Summon Aberration, Rary's Telepathic Bond, and Telekinesis. So these spells actually look pretty good on paper in the ratings, okay? Yeah, Mind Sliver is a decent cantrip, and you do get 11 spells, not 10, like most subclass spell lists. You get the extra cantrip, which is Mind Sliver in this case. So make sure you have like a psionic cantrip attack, which is cool. Arms of Dar, pretty bad spell. Like, the use case, you might think the use case for it is, I'm surrounded by a bunch of monsters. I want to get out of melee. And so I'm going to use that to cause them all to not be able to make opportunity attacks, and then I'm going to walk away. Yes, that's great, as long as they all fail the saving throw and you're not going to hit allies, because this does have friendly fire. But you know what also allows you just to escape a bunch of enemies? Disengage. Right, disengage is guaranteed to let you walk away from all the enemies, whereas Arms of Adar is not. So if you're in trouble and surrounded, disengage. Don't use Arms of Adar. And plus disengage uses no spell slots. Dissonant Whispers, awesome spell. It's not awesome because of its base damage and that kind of stuff, right? Like, it's just, what is it, 3d6? Is it even 3d6? I think it's 3d6 damage. That's okay. The main reason you use Dissonant Whispers is it causes them to run away immediately using the reaction, which will provoke a bunch of opportunity attacks if your allies are adjacent to them or within reach, right? So what you want to do is wait till an enemy is surrounded by your allies, then Dissonant Whispers that one, provoking opportunity attacks from like 3 or 4 of your allies as they run away. Yeah. Now it's a super support spell. I'm going to give it a B for support because, right, an enemy is not always in that situation. You don't always have that many melee martial allies, right? But when they do, which is more than 50% of the time, probably, yeah, you're going to provoke 3 opportunity attacks on them from your allies. Yeah, you're essentially using 1 spell slot to give 3 of your allies, assuming you have 3 melee allies, reaction attacks. You're weaponizing their reactions for them, like the Order Domain Cleric can do, but it's when they cast a spell on an ally, and so they, using a spell slot, can give 1 ally a reaction attack. Using this, you can give multiple allies a reaction attack. Yeah, it's a great spell for that. Calm Emotions, I do like as a spell. It can, get you out of combat encounters with beasts and humanoids. It can it can suppress or prevent Charmed and Frightened on your allies, which is handy. Like, those things are pretty debilitating, so I like it. Detect Thoughts, I want to like it. It's just never, I don't know. Maybe we're doing it wrong. Like, every time I've seen a player cast it, which is maybe a half dozen times, it didn't really do a lot. I've had to, like, rule of cool type of thing to, like, give it some value. Like, okay, you're reading their mind in combat. I'm going to give you, like, advantage once per turn or something like that, because you can, like, sense what they're going to do. I think I've had players try it once or twice in a social encounter. I think I tried to make it helpful. It's just not great, and players rarely use it. Hunger of Adar is a good spell if you have push effects. And unless you do on your sorcerer, like, good push effects, it's not that good. It's probably a B spell if you don't have good push effects. So that makes Hunger of Adar really good on warlocks who can get Eldritch Blast, Repelling Blast, and then multiple times per round, they're pushing enemies back into it. Yeah, there's not a lot of ways for sorcerers to get push effects that don't take concentration. And you can't have push effects with concentration because Hunger of Adar will take your concentration. So it's not as good of a spell. Now, you could have allies with push effects, right? Weapon Master push is an easy one to get, but not many marshals take it. Yeah, they're always going for cleave, graze, topple. Yeah, those are the three most common weapon masters. Or, for great weapon fighting. When you're talking like two weapon fighting, then it's Vex and Nick, right? Somebody going like a single one-handed weapon, then they're usually going for sap. Like push is the least common weapon mastery I see used. And I think that's a tragedy because it's very, very useful, especially when you have allies with battlefield hazards like Hunger of Adar. So it really depends on your party composition whether or not Hunger of Adar is even going to be good for you. You have sending, which is like quite useful in some situations. If you need to communicate with somebody long distance, sending is it, right? You get to send 25 words as long as they're on the same plane of existence and you know them. You can send 25 words. They can respond with 25 words. Done. And as long as what you want to communicate, it can be done in 25 words each way. It's a perfect spell. Then you have Everard's Black Tentacles, which is an interesting control kind of damage spell. Summon Aberration is actually one of the better summon spells from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything style spells. It's actually really good. It gives you some interesting options. There's like the Slot is a decent tank option. The Beholder is a really good range damage dealer. What's the other one? Star Spawn? I think that one has like an AoE. I forget what that one does. That's the least used one as well of those three options. Rary's Telepathic Bond, great. Now you have Telekinesis or with a group of people, nice. Sorry, not Telekinesis. You have Telepathy with a group of people, and then you get the Telekinesis spell, which is a great spell. So that one's a solid addition. So Dissonant Whisper, Mind Sliver, Dissonant Whispers, Telekinesis, probably the three, and Summon Aberration. Those are 4 good spells on your spell list, which is nice. Your first level 3 feature and your only level 3 feature besides your spell list is Telepathic Speech. You can form a telepathic connection between your mind and the mind of another. As a bonus action, choose one creature you can see within 30 feet of yourself. You and the chosen creature can communicate telepathically with each other. While the two of you are within a number of miles of each other, equal to your charisma modifier, minimum of 1, to understand each other, you must mentally use a language the other knows. The telepathic connection lasts for a number of minutes, equal to your sorcerer level. It ends early if you use this ability to form a connection with a different creature. All right, and there is a slight change in this feature between 5e and 5.5, which is it used to end early if you're incapacitated, and they removed that. That's the one change. I don't know, like that. How is that worth anyone's time? Like this is a terrible feature, and they put in a bunch of like mechanics for absolutely no reason. Okay, they should have just said it lasts 1 hour, done, and it ends early. Right? Just forget all of this crap. Don't need this. Don't need that. Like that is going to have an impact almost never. Just, you know what? I don't even think it needs a duration. Just say you connect with one creature, great, fine. And then it ends early if you connect with a different creature. That would have been fine. And this still would have been a pretty weak feature. And that's all we get at level 3. In 5e, there used to be a feature right here, which was, and it was their best feature. When you gain a level, you can replace any one of these spells with a enchantment or divination spell from the sorcerer, warlock, or wizard spell lists. And it was just buried right here. And that was their best feature. Now, I didn't like it. I don't think that that's the right way to approach a sorcerer, right? The whole difference between sorcerers and wizards is wizards have the versatility. Sorcerers are supposed to have the depth. And so that was like giving them versatility instead of depth. So I agree that they shouldn't have it, but they replaced it with nothing. And they did the Aberrant Sorcerer dirty. Yeah. I don't know. I don't get it. And then somebody took, time to say, well, let's remove the incapacitated condition from ending this telepathic speech early. Terrible. Like, ugh. And this telepathic speech is weaker than the Soul Knife's telepathy. Yeah, the Soul Knife can connect right at level 3 with multiple people for multiple hours and a range of a mile. Okay, like the Soul Knife has better telepathy than this guy. And that's your only level 3 feature. I don't know what happened here. It's like I don't know. They just didn't spend time on it. Like the Great Old One Warlock, right? They're like, okay, that one's supposed to be a Psionic Warlock version, and they clearly took time and invested and made that one cool. This one, they ripped off its best feature and then dumped it. I didn't realize how bad they did, how bad they messed this one up in 5.5 until yesterday when I started reading it. Because I don't, Sorcerer is my least favorite class, so I didn't like pay a lot of attention to it. I haven't played a sorcerer in 5.5. I only played one in 5e. In fact, the only time I've ever seen the Aberrant sorcerer played was me. Yeah, I played it as a DMPC in a campaign, and it was fun. And the only reason I did it was because I wanted to be a psionicist, and that was the best way to do it. I have not seen anybody play an Aberrant Mind Sorcerer in 5.5, and it's pretty apparent why. Like, this thing is rough. Okay, one other thing that I want to point out between telepathic speech and their spell list is they gave them 3 different telepathy features. 3. Now, they all work a little bit different, but there is a lot of redundancy. Why give them 3 different telepathy features, right? Rare raise telepathic bond, sending, and telepathic speech. I mean, they could have built sending into their level 3 telepathic speech. Just make it work like sending. Let them cast sending at will. And it still wouldn't have been a very strong level 3 feature. I mean, there are situations where that's quite useful. That's not going to change the course of any combats. I mean, there's a lot of campaigns where that's not going to have an impact. And an intrigue campaign that might have more impact. None of the published adventures are written in a way where that would have a big impact. Yeah, none of them. So it would have to be something like homebrew, right? A homebrew campaign where that's a big deal, which is totally possible, totally fair, and great. Like, this is the one sorcerer who would have been like, they would have shined in that moment, like just really shined. And that's what every player character is supposed to be able to do, right? Have their moments where they shine and they're the spotlight and they're like the coolest one of the party. Not all the time. Like, no one character should be the coolest of the party all the time, right? That's actually bad. It brings down the fun for the rest of the people, right? But every single character, meaning every player, should have their moments to shine, different moments in a campaign, and that would have been some like really shining moments for this one. But yeah, this one's I don't know. I don't know. I'm really disappointed because this is my favorite theme, and I think it's the worst sorcerer subclass created by WotC. Yeah, published by WotC in 5.5. Yeah, and then their level 6 features. Let me read them. Okay, level 6 Psionic Sorcerer. Sorcery, when you cast any level 1+ spell from your Psionic spells feature. So let's scroll back up. That's this level of spells, or this list of spells. You can cast it by expending a spell slot as normal, or by spending a number of sorcery points equal to the spell's level. If you cast a spell using sorcery points, it requires no verbal or somatic components, and it requires no material components, unless they are consumed by the spell or have a cost specified in it. All right, so that means there are exactly 10 spells you can use this with, not 11, because Mind Sliver doesn't count as a cantrip. So you can use this with 10 spells. Let's compare this to the Psychic Spells feature that the Great Old One Warlock gets at level 3. That one works with any Warlock enchantment or illusion spell. That is 40 Warlock spells that works with, and it costs you 0 extra resources. Okay, this one's going to cost you sorcery points. Now, you can convert your spell slots to sorcery points. There's no action required to convert spell slots to sorcery points. So you could, instead of like casting Hunger of Adar with a spell slot, you could convert that 3rd level spell slot to 3 sorcery points, no action required, and then cast Hunger of Adar with those sorcery points, and it's like getting a free subtle spell on it, which is, when you want to cast Hunger of Adar, that's great. Most of these spells are spells you're not going to be wanting to cast. Like, Telekinesis, Summon Aberration, Hunger of Adar, maybe, depending on party composition, Dissonant Whispers. Yeah, those are the ones that are going to be worth it, probably. Everard's Black Tentacles, maybe? Maybe. Spending your concentration on tentacles, in such a small area, I just don't know that that's worth it. All right, but the psychic spells from Great Old Warlock, cost you nothing extra. Like, this would have been, if they had just rewritten this as a feature that said you just gain the subtle spell meta magic option, and as a bonus meta magic option, right? Because sorcerers can already do this exact thing with just subtle spell. And when you need it, it's great. You just don't need it on every spell every day. You might use it a couple of times a day. So if they just said you get subtle spell as a bonus option, if you already know subtle spell, pick another one. Great. And given that to you at level 3, this still would have been okay, not great. If they'd said you can use that subtle spell for free on divination and enchantment spells, which is what they're, that's the list of, that's the types of spells that used to be able to swap here. So clearly there was like a divination and enchantment theme, whereas the great old one is enchantment illusion. So yeah, I believe in having some differentiation. So great. And just say you can use, whenever you use subtle spell on a sorcerer, divination, or enchantment spell, it costs you nothing. Then it might have been a decent level 3 feature, comparable to what the Great Old One Warlock gets. As a level 6 feature, I think this is pretty bad. Yeah, I think this is pretty bad. This only works on exactly 10 spells. The psychic spells from the Great Old One Warlock, they can use theirs for free on 40 spells. The comparison clearly there was no comparison. Like nobody went through and sat down and said like, okay, here's these two very psionic characters. Let's make them different, but make them both like equally useful in different ways. That was not done clearly. This one was just a rip and, remove their best feature, dump it into the player's handbook, call it good. You get another level 6 feature, Psychic Defenses. I'm bitter about this one, apparently. Like, this was my favorite Sorcerer theme, and I'm miffed that they ruined it. I mean, it was like okay before, not great. And now it's worse. Okay, Psychic Defenses. You have resistance to psychic damage, and you have advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the charm condition. This is probably their first really solid feature. Resistance to psychic damage is nice. That's not the rarest damage type that comes up that monsters will inflict. Yeah, I don't think that's the rarest. It's not middle of the pack though. It's toward the rare end. So this is not super great. Advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the charm or frightened condition. Charm conditions used against player characters is not very common. Frightened is quite common. Having advantage on the saving throws to avoid or end the charm or frightened condition is decent. This is like a solid B survival feature. Yeah. Level 14, and that's level 6. And then we go, 8 more levels before we get another subclass feature. Level 14, Revelation in Flesh. You can unleash the aberrant truth hidden within yourself. As a bonus action, you can spend 1 sorcery point or more to magically alter your body for 10 minutes. For each sorcery point you spend, you gain one of the following benefits of your choice, the effect of which lasts until the alteration ends. Aquatic Adaptation. You gain a swim speed equal to twice your speed, and you can breathe underwater. Gills grow from your neck or flare behind your ears, and your fingers become webbed, or you grow wriggling cilia. Gross, but useful. Glistening Flight. You gain a flight speed equal to your speed, and you can hover. Nice. That is an important addition. If you are flying and you don't have hover, and somebody reduces your movement speed to 0 or knocks you prone, either of those situations or either of those conditions occur, you fall out of the air and you immediately fall 500 feet, potentially causing you to impact with the ground. If you hit the ground, you take a maximum of 20d6 bludgeoning damage from that impact. Yeah, so it is very nice that you have hover. As you fly, your skin glistens with mucus or otherworldly light. Yeah, there's a lot of like mucus, tentacly, gross stuff in this one. But you don't have to play it that way. Like you can flavor it however you want. I definitely didn't flavor mine that way. I don't like mucus, slime, and tentacles. And I don't mean I'm opposed to it in my games. I mean, I don't want to be a character that's that. It's totally fine if other people want to play that way. That's not me. All right, see the invisible. You can see any invisible creature within 60 feet of yourself that isn't behind total cover. Your eyes also turn black or become writhing sensory tendrils. Worm-like movement. Your body, along with any equipment you are wearing or carrying, becomes slimy and pliable. You can move through any space as narrow as 1 inch, and you can spend 5 feet of movement to escape from non-magical restraints or the grappled condition. All right. This one is good. This one's good, right? You've got one of these options that you will often want to use. Great, right? A fly speed with hover. That's solid, concentration free. You activate it as a bonus action. It lasts 10 minutes, costs 1 sorcery point. 1 sorcery point when you are level 14 is pretty cheap. Yeah. So they didn't, I'm glad they didn't make the mistake of saying like this costs 3 sorcery points and you get to pick 3 of these. Why you would never pick 3 of these at the same time? Highly unlikely, right? So you'd be wasting most of those sorcery points. Okay, so you just pay as many sorcery points as these options you want, which most of the time will be 1. So 1 sorcery point to fly at equal to your movement speed. No restrictions for armor or anything like that. If you happen to have the capability to wear armor, which you don't normally as a as a sorcerer, you have to multi-class or takes a bunch of feats. That's solid, right? And then having the ability that so that when you need it, if you need to swim and breathe underwater, you can do it, right? And if you need to see an invisible creature, boom, you can do it. And if you need to squeeze through something or get out of a grapple, boom, you can do it. The fact that it gives you a way to utilize those options very easily in the rare circumstances when they will come up makes this even better. Okay. That's nice, right? Because like I say, every time I talk about swim speed and underwater breathing, when you need it, it's critical. And when you don't need it, it's useless. So the fact that you can just turn this on in those rare moments when you need it, awesome. See invisibility, same kind of thing. It's not very often that creatures turn invisible. The enemies turn invisible that have the hide condition. I mean, maybe 10% of them have that kind of functionality. Maybe 10%. So, but it does happen. And the problem is most of the time player characters don't prepare see invisibility because it's 10% of the time you're like, that's kind of rough to fit on my spell list, and so they don't prepare it. The fact that you just have this in your back pocket at any time is very nice, and so is this. So this is a solid feature, and this is exactly the same as it was. They just changed some of the wording and gave like sub names on each of these features that didn't have it before. There's not a single mechanical change. So this is a solid feature. Warping Implosion. You can unleash, this is level 18, Warping Implosion. You can unleash a space warping anomaly. As a magic action, you teleport to an unoccupied space you can see within 120 feet of yourself. Immediately after you disappear, each creature within 30 feet of the space you left must make a strength saving throw against your spell save DC. On a failed save, a creature takes 3d10 force damage and is pulled straight toward the space you left, ending in an unoccupied space as close to your former space as possible. On a successful save, the creature takes half as much damage. Only once you use this feature, you can't do so again until you finish a long rest unless you spend 5 sorcery points, no action required, to restore your use of it. All right, 3d10 is a terrible amount of damage at level 18. It's almost like the person who wrote this was like thinking in terms of level 3. Like 3d10 is a healthy amount of damage at level 3. Level 18, that's trivial. Like monsters have at level 18 300 something hit points. Yeah, you're going to do 16.5 damage to them, like less than 10% of their health. And this is your capstone feature that costs you 5 sorcery points to recharge. That's, the logic, it just defies logic here. Okay. And by the way, this has friendly fire. Okay. 30-foot area, 30-foot radius sphere, friendly fire. Okay. I guess you teleport also. But frankly, you've been teleporting since you were like level 3, right? Because you're surely get Misty Step one way or another at levels 3, 4. Like you're a sorcerer, you definitely want that. So you're going to teleport yourself. Great, you've been doing that for 15 levels now. Unless you're an Eladrin or a Shatter Kai or one of the teleporting species, and then you've been doing it since level 1. So that damage is terrible. The fact that they're pulled to the center is the most interesting part of this. It gives you the opportunity to do a little battlefield repositioning. You could have a Hunger of Hadar down, and as the enemies like move just to the, multiple enemies get out of it and move to the edge, you use this in the center of where Hunger Hadar. I mean, you'd have to walk into your own Hunger of Hadar to make this work. Yeah. Right? Because the implosion occurs from the space you leave, so that you can't even combo those with Hunger of Hadar. Yeah, unless you want to walk into your Hunger of Hadar, I guess. And then they get pulled to the center, which is cool. Remember that it's a spherical area. So if they are off the ground flying, they'll be pulled to the ground. And if you're off the ground flying, they'll be pulled into the space you left, right? So probably one of the best ways to use this would be for you to activate flight first, and you can do that as a bonus action, and neither of these are a spell, so you can do both of these in one round. So activate your flight over the enemies, use this, they'll be pulled into the air, and make sure you're 30 feet off the ground. So they're pulled into the air, 30 feet, as your implosion happens, and then you teleport back to where you want to be. Then they are dropped 30 feet. That'll add 3d6 damage to this, so they're going to take 3d10 plus 3d6. You're looking at 16.5 plus 10.5, 17, 27 damage. Okay, you did all that, expending the equivalent of 6 sorcery points to deal this slightly less damage than a single fireball. but they land prone, you know? So this is a pretty cool idea, but you know what it looks like? Yeah, if you've read the Unearthed Arcana playtest for the Scion, you know that the Psy Warper has the same feature where they get at level 6 enhance the Shatter spell. Like Shatter spell is on their spell list, and they get an enhanced Shatter so that it does the same thing where it sucks people to the center. And then the area increases, I think, too. Yeah, and they get to do that starting at level 6. Using a spell slot, you're going to have to do, and they get to do that away from themselves, right? This has to be at a space you leave and then teleport away. So they can just do that away from themselves. You know, they don't have to do any shenanigans or use flight, fly over them and do it. They can just cast this on the enemies or just pick a square above their enemies, use this, boom, all the enemies are pulled in the air and drop prone again, using a second level spell slot. And they get to add some damage to it too, right? Like they have 2 different ways to add damage to that. And that's level 6. So frankly, this is a terrible capstone. Just terrible. I mean, you can use it. Sure, use it once for free. I don't think this is worth 5 sorcery points. Like rarely. Like there are going to be battlefield situations where like the damage isn't the reason you do this. Frankly, it'll be something like knocking enemies prone, like knocking a bunch of enemies prone is the reason to do this. And there will be situations where, you know, knocking, if especially, I don't know, if there's 10 or 12 monsters, you can knock them all prone doing this, which is a pretty big inhibition, control effect you're adding to a group of creatures. Yeah. In some situations, that might be worth 5 sorcery points to recharge this and do it again. Unless you're specifically in that kind of scenario, and those creatures have like a poor ranged attack, right? Which is at level 18 something that probably shouldn't be happening anymore. But maybe your DM does that. Maybe your DM just implements the lightning rod effect where the encounter didn't call for a bunch of minions without a range attack, like because you wouldn't normally do that at level 18. Surely the player characters are going to lock down creatures who can only do melee attacks, right? Like that's something you do in tier 1. That's not something you do in tier 4. Anyway, if you have a player character with that's this subclass and has this feature, yeah, you'd probably want to use the lightning rod effect in the big boss encounter. Add 20 monsters that are like low level that don't have a ranged attack, and then the sorcerers can be like, ha ha, and they're gonna wreck them with this, and they're gonna feel like they are awesome and they really contributed. And the whole time you're like, yeah, I added that there so that you would do this, so that you would feel cool. Yeah, that's the lightning rod concept. Other than that, this is kind of a useless feature. Yeah, like once for free, even so, is like you got to do a bunch of work to pull this off once for free. I don't know, kind of maybe worth it. A lot of times it's not even going to be worth it just for the work you have to go through to make this work well, right? Because you have to move into the middle of the creatures, the enemies, and the fly is probably the best way to do that. So fly over the heads, move in the middle, have them all pulled backwards, into the air, drop prone, and now they've been pulled back, drop prone. I mean, if your whole party's trying to run away, yeah, that's going to help them all run away because you run back, you fly back there, suck all the enemies backwards into the air, drop them prone. They're all prone now. They got to spend half their movement, stand back up, and then continue. And they've moved like up to 30 feet backwards too. They've lost a lot of ground. That's surely going to help the party escape. And then you would have teleported 120 feet back to wherever you need to be with the party, assuming that you have that kind of line of sight, right? If you're in a dungeon, you probably don't have 120 feet of line of sight. Yeah, but that'll help the party escape in certain scenarios. But yeah, this is just a really circumstantial, really disappointing capstone. That damage should be 8d10. Yeah, 8d10. And you know what? Remove the teleport and let you cast it 120 feet away from yourself. Then this would be a spicy capstone worth 5 sorcery points to recharge. Okay, just an 8d10 explosion. And you can choose at a range. It's a 30-foot radius sphere that you can choose at range 120 feet from yourself, and they all get sucked to the center. Yeah, that's a cool capstone. This, terrible. Okay, let's tier rank this thing. Overall, it's going to be a B. Yeah, a B. And I feel like that's a little bit generous. Although I have to admit, I'm emotional about this one, and it's clouding my logical part of my brain. And I don't know if I don't think I've overrated this. But I might have no, I don't think I've underrated this. I don't think it deserves an A for sure. I may have overrated this. I can't tell between the bias and the fact that I'm just irritated by how badly they messed it up. Like most of these features didn't change and they weren't good before, but the fact that it had that that feature at level 3 in their Psionic spells that allowed them to swap spells out. That was a strong feature. I don't think it was a good feature. Like, I don't think that's something that sorcerers should have, like I said before. So I think it was right to remove it, but they should have given them a lot more other features. They should have given them other stuff to make this good. And they did nothing. So I'm irritated about that. And I'm also biased because this is my favorite theme. I'm going to say it's a B. Let me know if you think I've missed a mark on some of this stuff. And I'm just, not being logical right now. I'm pretty sure that's the case. They're going to be a D for frontlining. That's really just your summon aberration feature, right? The ability to put a frontliner in the battlefield. A B for range damage dealing. Mostly that's your aberration, summon aberration as well. B for blaster. That's mostly Hunger of Vidar. And so a lot of these, and keep in mind, when I talk about these ratings, I'm not saying you're all of those things at the same time. That is not what I'm saying. I'm saying you can be capable of that depending on your build and depending on the situation, right? So, but like Hunger Vidar and Summon Aberration, mutually exclusive. They both require concentration. You're not going to be both of these things at the same time. B for control effect. Most of that's coming from telekinesis. Yeah. D for healing. Yeah, that's calm emotions, right? I do consider removing negative effects on your allies as a healing function. Right, so calming emotions, it doesn't technically remove charmed and frightened if they already have it, but it does suppress it, which is as good, right? For the length of the combat, for sure. So you should be fine. Support, they get a C for support, a C for scouting, a C for face, a C for self buff. That self buff is mostly coming from your Psionic sorcery feature, which I don't think is a solid feature. I give that a B as a feature, and I think that's generous. But averaged out over 20 levels, that doesn't carry you all the way to a B in self buff. So that's going to be a C for self buff. B for survival. That's mostly your psychic defenses at level 6. Yeah. And a D for knowledge and a C for mobility. Now, the C for mobility, you might be wondering, like that Revelation in Flesh, you said it was really good. Yes, that's an A-rated mobility feature. But you don't get it to level 14. So average that over 20 levels, and I don't think that carries you to an A by itself, particularly since you don't get it to level 14, which, according to pop culture, most campaigns don't reach level 14. I don't know. My point of view is different. I've DM'd 5th edition, over 11,000 hours now, 5th edition in 5.5, and almost every one of my campaigns goes to tier 4, if not level 20. So I don't get that. I don't know if people are afraid to try high levels. I think that's part of it, because there's so many people on YouTube and social media talking about, how problematic, and, Reddit and things like that, how problematic, like tier 4 D&D is broken. No, it's not. It works just fine. Don't let the players do crazy things, and tier 4 works just fine. It's fun to play. Just don't let people break the game with by exploiting like unintended rules interactions. And then the game's just fine at level 20. So yeah, I don't know. But if that's your kind of campaign and it's not going to go to level 14, then you have almost a 0 in mobility. The only thing that's going to give you any mobility functionality at level 9 is telekinesis, because yes, you can use telekinesis to grab yourself and move yourself around, essentially causing you to kind of fly. And it's forced movement, so you wouldn't provoke opportunity attacks while moving yourself with telekinesis. So it's kind of a decent, interesting little multi-purpose spell that you get at level 9, which again, it's probably pretty late in most campaigns, I guess, or most campaigns are ending around 12 or 13. According to, people, I can't, sympathize with that, because like I said, my campaigns go to tier 4, level 20. And even though as I've said before, I run I only exclusively run published campaigns, WotC's published campaigns. I do include some adventure, like one-shot stuff from other sources. I'll sometimes do random dungeons for one-shots, things like that. But by and large, I do published campaigns. And so I just tweak the campaign and it goes to level 20. Yeah. My Planescape campaign that ended earlier this year, I was supposed to it's written to level 17. I had to go to 20. In fact, they had multiple epic levels, and there isn't really an epic level. What you do is you get an epic boon for every additional 30,000 experience past level 20. That's rules as written. And almost all of them, I don't know if all of them got multiple epic boons from that. One of them had 3 or 4 epic boons from that. And, but they were all level 20. Yeah. So I don't get that, but, yeah, that certainly does completely change the game. That's why I do the ratings for the base content from WotC differently, where I break it down by levels with all these ratings that you can see. So you can tell by level how this thing's going to function, right? You can see that at level 3, it is not a B at anything. So it's definitely not a B. At level 5, they get one B feature. Level 6, they get some B features. They kind of get a number, like they get an A or B feature. Well, they get a single A feature, which is at level 14, the Revelation in Flesh. Everything else is a B at best, and they don't get their first B till level 5. So that also informs you that if you want to multi-class with this thing, I wouldn't go a 3-level dip with this. This is not worth a 3-level dip. The only reason, like a sorcerer might be worth a 3-level dip. And if you're going 3 levels of sorcerer, I wouldn't pick this subclass. I would pick probably any of the other subclasses will give you more value at level 3 than this. Unless for some reason you specifically just need telepathy and you didn't want to pick it up in any of the 24 other ways to get telepathy that are easier than this. Okay, yeah, all right. I got to just stop. I'm just going to keep criticizing it. So needless to say, super disappointed. And here it is in context with everything else. Yeah, I'm giving it a B. That does feel generous. This is the first sorcerer subclass I've done from the player's handbook. So there's nothing else to compare to in the player's handbook as a sorcerer. So let's sort by the class here and compare it to all the other sorcerers I've covered so far, which there are quite, I don't know, not a ton. What do we got? About a dozen. Nothing else is lower than a B. And I did give the Spellfire Sorcerer a B as well. So those two are from WotC. Both of those I consider to be Bs at best. There's also the Skin Shifter and the Frost Sorcerer. Skin Shifter from Heliana's Guide to Monster Hunting Part 2. The Frost Sorcerer from Griffin Saddlebag Part 1. Both of those are Bs as well. But I consider B playable. Like you can play it as long as you go past level 3 with the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer. Because the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer is a C at level 3. So if you stick with it, getting to at least level 6, if not level 14, you're going to feel like your subclass is decent. I don't think you'll notice that it's subpar overall. The only way you'd notice is if you play a lot of sorcerers, and then you just have that experience of knowing, oh, I would have been more powerful if I'd done it. These chosen a different type of sorcerer. But it will be good enough. In my book, B means good enough. I'm always talking about, right, the way to optimize fun with D&D is to have good enough mechanics. Like, you don't need to be optimized. You just need good enough mechanics, and you need good enough roleplay, okay? Because without the mechanics, D&D isn't a game. And without the roleplay, it isn't a fun game. You need good enough of both. You do not need to be S tier at either one of those things. You don't need to be a professional voice actor or better, like, Matt Mercer, things like that. You don't need that. I mean, it's great. There's nothing wrong with it, for sure. I'm just saying you don't need to be that good. You just need good enough role play, and you need good enough mechanics. Okay. I'm not necessarily saying that there's like a top max on either one of those things. Yes, you could create a really, really powerful character. That's fine. As long as you don't view it as a soulless bag of mechanics, right? You need good enough role play. And if you have an optimized character, fine. That's just fine. Don't worry about it. Right? Just good enough at both. And if you are a role play forward and don't care about the mechanics, you still need a good enough mechanical character, or you won't have fun because your character will just fail at everything you try to do, right? Nobody plays D&D thinking it'll be fun if I just fail at everything. It's always about a fantasy of, I'm going to be cool and useful in these ways. I'm going to be a contributing member. I'm going to have meaningful impacts, right? Even though you're role play first, every single person's fantasy is, I'm going to contribute something. I'm going to be cool in some way. And that requires good enough mechanics. Okay. That's it. So the Aberrant Mind Sorcerer, big disappointment to me. If you didn't know, there's a links out here. If you scroll to the right, there's links to all the video content. So you can go right to it. That way you don't have to try to find it on YouTube. There, it is getting overwhelming. I'm coming up on 1 year since the first video I put out there, and I have over 550 videos, so it's a lot to try to find stuff. And so anyway, this was a suggestion a couple months ago from a viewer. Fantastic idea. I wish I thought of it sooner, but to put those links right in here, and I do that on basically all meaningful content: the spells, the feats, the backgrounds, the species, even the magic items, or any kind of items that I cover. Put in the links to all those, and the subclasses and classes for sure, so that you can find it easier. That's it for this one. Thanks for watching. I hope it helps. If you don't have enough D&D in your life, check the video description. You can find links to join my Discord, a link to the DSR rules for the homebrew kind of stuff. There's also a link to Caius's monster data, where he's pulled all of that and done some analysis on it, which is very helpful. I refer to it pretty often. There's also a link to the Google Drive that has this DSR data Google Sheet in it, where I rate all this, everything in the game. There's a few other Google Sheets in that Google Drive as well. So if you don't find the particular tab of data that you're looking for, it might be in one of the other Google Sheets. I've started separating out any tab that's like class specific into a DSR data class, and then anything that's campaign, like partner campaign specific, I separated out into there's a folder for that content named after the partner campaign setting as well. So it might be in one of those places. But yeah, the Google Drive has all that stuff out there. There is no paywall to access any of this. It's just publicly accessible. I hope you use it. That's why I made it. I hope it helps. That's the whole point of all of this, is to make D&D more accessible to more people, make it a little bit easier to get into having fun of playing D&D faster, so you don't have to have like a master's degree in D&D in order to create a character. Yeah, because D&D is really great, and I think more people should play. And so I'm just trying to lower the barrier to entry, make it easier for people to get into it and play it. I do also have a link to my Patreon, and if you want to support in that way, that's wonderful. Big shout out to all my patrons. Thank you all so much, especially the Frontliner tier and the Artificer tier patrons. You guys are wonderful, and I really appreciate everything you guys do. So thank you so much. If it doesn't make sense for you to support in that way, that's totally fine. Don't worry about it. You can like, subscribe, comment, and watch videos. Just watching video is a great way to support as well. So thank you for any way you choose to support. And finally, remember that D&D is a game. The point of it is to have fun with your friends. So please be cool when you play D&D, all right? Okay, catch you next time.